Hey gamers, if you like deck building and dark themes, then you want to check out Dark Heists. Let's take a look at how this game plays. In this game, players will be deck building in order to try and score the most points over the course of the game. The game will end when a player has completed 3 heists, and then you'll finish that round, and the player with the most points at the end of the game will win. On a player's turn, they will draw 5 cards from their deck, and the first thing they'll do is assess their hand and take a look at what they've got going on, and then they will activate any special abilities. So in this case, these ones actually work together. So this one gives me a sway or a crime. Sway is up here and crime is down here. Per ghost that I have, so I would get some extra there, and it does cancel out a specter, so I won't have to take this negative effect. The effects in red are mandatory effects, everything else is optional, and in this case I would lose 1 sway or 1 crime, but because it cancels out, I don't have to lose that, which is nice. And then I also have one here that gives me a coin, so I would just take that and put it in my player area, and then I could use all of my cards for their sway or their crime, not for both, and I can use a whole turn to recruit cards and finish up larceny, which would be using the sway and the crime respectively. This is the cost of sway. Some cards might also have other costs like coins or taking heat. And then I can just decide if I want to buy something or complete some of these cards. So I've got a bunch of sway here. I think I've got 1 and then 2, 3 for the ghosts, 4, 5, 6. So I actually think I'm going to buy one of the cards that are out here. I'm going to go ahead and buy this one. It gives me another opportunity to cancel a specter later and has an attack for one of my opponents as well. I would then clean up all of my cards when I've done all of the actions that I'm going to do. Like I said, if I had more sway, I could buy more cards, or if I had enough crime on cards that I didn't use the sway from, I could do larceny, which would just be paying crime, getting coins, and then I would flip that over for a bonus that I could use now or later. In this case, I would be able to give a heat to one of my opponents. And then once I'm done with my turn, I would just announce the end of my turn, refill the market. If a cop card did come out, this one was already here, but if it did, I would activate its ability, which in this case would have been to wipe the market other than that card. And then I would refill it, and then I would just end my turn and draw my new hand of cards. Another thing that you can do on your turn instead of recruiting and larceny is that you can start a heist. So maybe I want to start a basic heist for my first one, and basically it's just going to take a look at what I need on the side here, and I can track that with my cube. So if I had 6 sway in my hand, we'll pretend that I do for this, then I would complete the first one. I would still trigger any of the abilities that were on my cards, and then go ahead and spend my sway or crime for what I was doing, one of the challenges on the heists, and then I would discard my hand and draw a whole new one to assess the next challenge. If I have that one, I would go ahead and slide my cube down to say I've done that challenge. Same thing, trigger all your abilities, then assess if you've completed the challenge. If you completed some of the lower challenges, you also get bonuses. So in this case, if I complete the second one for 5 crime, I would get to recruit a card for free, which can be really beneficial. And then again, discard your hand, draw a whole new one, and repeat that process. When you've completed all of the challenges on a heist, you'll go ahead and flip that over, and then you'll have a permanent ability. In this case, I would get 2 sway per turn, which again can be really helpful in doing more heists or in buying more cards later on. If you fail a challenge on a heist, so if I got to that third one and I said, oh, I don't have enough in my hand, you would take 1 heat, and then you would just clean up for that turn. You can always reattempt it later, but you can only have 1 active heist at a time. And another thing about heists is that you can only do 1 basic one during the game. The rest will have to be those advanced ones. And when you're choosing whether to do the heist, you'll take the top 2 and assess them, decide which one you want to do, put one on your board, and then put the other one back at the bottom of its respective deck. And like I said, those will have some permanent abilities that you'll get to use throughout the game. When somebody completes 3 heists, that will trigger the end of the game. You'll finish the round so everybody has equal turns, and then you'll just add up points on cards to see who has the most notoriety, which is your points. You'll find a lot of those that are in the corner here. These, of course, as the starter cards, don't have points, but a lot of the other ones here do. Some will have negative points as well. Some will also have points for having certain types of cards, so it'll give you a point per noble or a point per ghost, things like that, based on the suit. And then your completed heists will also have points in the corner, and the player with the most points at the end of the game will win. If you're familiar with deck building, then I think this will be a really easy one to get into, which I liked about it. It's got a really nice look to it. I like how it looks. I think it's really cool. And I think that if you, like I said, if you like deck building, it's very familiar and it has just a little bit of a unique twist because you do have so many options for your cards. You can recruit and do larceny, and you have to choose for each card what you're going to use off of it, which I think works well. Or you've got to decide if, instead of buying a ton of cards this turn, if you want to do a heist and see if hopefully you can like do the whole heist in one turn because you do keep redrawing and everything like that. So I think that that has a nice give and take with it of balancing how you want to use your cards each turn when you're assessing them and deciding what to do with them. And I like that no matter what you choose to do, you are getting those bonuses. So you'll get your coins or you'll get the attacks on other players, things like that. You always get to trigger those, which I think, again, just works really well. I will say that after playing it a couple of times, it seemed like the game was more about the race than anything. You don't necessarily win the game if you do all 3 heists first because players will get equal turns, and it depends on, if yours were worth more or less points. And it just seemed like if you focused really hard on just trying to go for those as early as you could, buy a couple cards, and then start on heists, you were more likely to finish all of them before somebody else. Especially if you maybe got a couple of bonuses already from the larceny that you could utilize to draw an extra card this turn. Oh, that really helps you do a heist. Things of that nature. I didn't feel like it was worthwhile to spend a lot more time deck building if somebody else was already starting heists. And you kind of had to like get in on the heists at the same time as other players in order to stand a chance at doing them as well. Sitting there and kind of trying to deck build more and have a even better deck slowed you down a little bit too much. So then it was hard to combat if somebody was able to just kind of go in and do their heist. But again, like if you like a little bit of a racing element, then there is that in it too. I think that it works, and I think if you're a fan of deck building and you like a kind of noirish theme, then it's a really fun one and it's definitely worth picking up. I also like the quality of everything. The board is a playmat, which I like. Your player board has like tons of information on it, which is really good for reference. So I think overall it does work pretty well, but you definitely have to be a fan of deck building because that is the core mechanic, and you definitely have to be okay with there being that element of racing that could end the game maybe sooner than you want, depending on if you are somebody who prefers to kind of try and build a really big deck before going into like that secondary aspect. So you can check my full thoughts on Bug today to decide this one might be for you. It just seems